Now in today's video, we are with quite a special plane. This is the Junkers U-58. As you can tell, this is quite an old plane from the 30s. Actually, its name is not Junkers Ju, but it's actually Junkers U-52 or Aunt Ju, whatever you want to call it. Now this is next to the DC-3, probably the most iconic and most legendary propeller airliner, especially of the last century. And when I say legendary, I mean legendary. 4,800 of these aircraft have been built already, which is definitely amazing. Only planes like the 737 top that, but the 737 is a bit of a different story, I would say. Now this is just like the DC-3, a tail dragger, and it's still in use. There are still some U-52s flying around these days. Now yes, as I've already said, this plane came out 80 years ago, so yeah, it is definitely crazy that there are still some flying around. Yeah, this is quite a good add-on plane for this flight simulator, so let's go ahead and take off first. Yeah, there is a certain way you have to take off a tail dragger. Yeah, you never want to put too much weight on the tail landing gear because it can break quite easily, but that's another story. We have taken off, and that's kind of what matters, right? Now, gear is not retractable, unlike the DC-3. Okay, but we are flying. We are actually quite slow, but that's fine, right? Now, as I've already said, this plane is German, so the cockpit, especially the early cockpits, were also German. For example, we have words like Fahrt, which means speed, like airspeed, or Höhe, which means altimeter, but that's a whole nother story. I mean, it's pretty much just like the Russian planes. This cockpit can only be flown by Germans properly, right? To be honest, this cockpit does not seem super duper old. I mean, it kind of does. Every pilot still kind of gets to use these instruments here, so this is all fine, right? Now, actually landing a tail dragger like this is quite a challenge, especially since these days we don't really see that many tail draggers anymore. So let's try that out, right? We might actually fail, but that's another story. Well, as you can imagine, I mean, 5,000 of these aircraft were built. There has to have been a lot of crashes already, which is not wrong, definitely. Actually, these old planes, also the DC-3, they could actually count as the most unsafe planes because they have had so many crashes so far. But when you think about the fact that 4,000 of these were already built, you kind of get to understand why all the crashes are. Oh no, we have lost some flaps. That can't be good. We are landing without flaps now then. Oh, we are dead. It's time to crash this plane anyway. I kind of want to see what happens. That was really not too much. I mean, obviously, the more planes that get built, the more planes that crash. So that kind of makes sense. Now, this plane has some other similarities to the DC-3. For example, it was both used in civil and military, which is also quite typical of early aviation. They were just using their planes for everything. All right, let's just go ahead and approach this airport. I kind of like the slow airspeed of this plane. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, the speed is measured in kilometers per hour, but 150 kilometers per hour is really not much. Yeah, this is not more than 100 or something knots. This is really cool to fly, especially as a private pilot. But as I've already said, it is quite challenging to land a tail dragger, so let's just do that. Oh god, that was quite a hard one, but I think we touched down the main landing gear first, which is the most important part. Oh, we are coming off the runway. That is not a good part. And we have touched down the tail. God damn it. Yeah, this didn't quite work out. Whatever, let's just ignore that one. Now, like other very old planes, there have been a lot of configurations of the Ju-52. For example, there is one with autopilot. There's also a seaplane version of it. Why not? There's also a two-bladed version. Isn't the normal version two-bladed as well? But yeah, especially also having a seaplane configuration was a thing back then. Now, this is, for example, an upgraded version with a modern GPS system, which is pretty much mandatory these days, obviously, which is for the better. But yeah, I mean, the aircraft still flies, at least in the sim, so that is really great. Now, as you can see, this plane has 3 engines, but the DC-3 only had 2 engines. Can this plane also run with 2 engines, is the question. The answer to that is probably know. We should probably not even try that out. But let's do it anyway. Full power. Let's see what we can do. All right, we are accelerating. That's a good start. Actually, this plane is coming off the ground. That seems quite good. Hey, we have taken off. That is really interesting. Yeah, this plane only needs 2 engines instead of 3. I mean, it kind of does run quite well, right? We are normally flying or not. But to be honest, this works okay. So does 1 engine work as well? I mean, definitely no, but we can try anyway. All right, let's cut off engine 3 and engine 1 so that engine 2 is only running. Now, the production of this plane was pretty much stopped in 1952, also 60 years ago. So it's very interesting that there are still U-52s flying around. Kind of proves the concept that all things really were created for eternity, like this plane. Now we have crashed a bit or something. Maybe not too good, but yeah. But I can imagine that exactly this happened quite a bit in the history of this aircraft. But whatever, right? So yeah, guys, thank you for watching today's video, and I'll see you tomorrow. As always, good night.